32 for discussion of the matter.
Thank you, sir. May I ask the sponsor a question?
He will yield to a question.
There are a couple of pages in this bill, new language about benefits, sick leave, retirement contributions for charter school employees. However, I understand that if a charter contracts with a management company, 100% of the money would be swept to that management company and that none of the employees would work for the charter school. There's language in the bill, and I'll say page 46, section 6, if you want to look at it, that says an employee of an education service provider shall not be considered a charter school employee. Could you confirm whether or not if a teacher is hired by an education service provider, would that teacher then work for the state? Would they participate in TRS? Would they receive state benefits?
Gentleman from Nelson.
On page 46, section 6 says expressly they would not.
Lady from Jefferson.
Thank you for the clarification. May I speak on the bill?
Yes, ma'am.
When House Bill 9 was filed on March 1st, I posted on my social media that it was a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad bill. Borrowing from a very favored book of mine that I read to my children. It has gotten a bit better, but I still have significant concerns. Part of it being the process by which we have learned about aspects of the bill. I got the official sub that we were voting on this morning in committee at 8 o'clock. It came through my email at 8:11 p.m. last night, 12 hours before it was heard in committee. And the public only had access to the sub after we had voted on it. In Kentucky, we have 171 school districts that are educating our students in public schools paid for with public tax dollars. We have amazing kids, phenomenal teachers, dedicated and hard-working staff. But there is a national movement to privatize public education. Google it. Milton Friedman, Betsy DeVos, Koch brothers, neoliberalism, free markets. It is a well-funded, laser-focused, and integrated long game. Kentucky's bill and the way that it's funding charter schools is directly from their privatization playbook. Kentucky could become an example of Joseph Schumpeter's creative destruction at work, with innovative charter schools driving out obsolete public schools. The driving force here is not innovation, it is profits. And selling our children's education for a profit is wrong. For-profit charter management companies are registered to lobby here in Kentucky. National Heritage Academy, K-12, they aren't here to bring innovative education, they are here to do business. Charter management organizations often have contracts called sweeps, where all of the money directed to the charter school is swept into the for-profit management company. 100% of the money, then the charter management company runs 100% of the school. In the contract, it specifically states, and I've seen a contract for a school that has this type of contract in Ohio, it specifically says that any money they don't spend is their profit. The education design, implementation, and comprehensive management of our public schools should not be a for-profit venture. I would like to request that we suspend the rules to hear House Floor Amendment 19, which would ban 100% sweep contracts with for-profit charter management companies.
State your point.
Would you rule as to whether or not that floor amendment is in order, as there's been a committee sub adopted?
I'll stand at ease. General from Nelson, it is in order. It is filed to in such that it is filed to the committee sub that was passed out earlier today. It is, however, at this time out of order because it was it was just filed today, which is to the lady from Jefferson 32's motion that we suspend the rules, and will require suspension of the rules for that to be in order and acted upon. Lady from Jefferson 32's motion is for a suspension of the rules to allow for House Floor Amendment 19. For suspension of the rules, which requires a constitutional majority of 51, it is not debatable, does not need to have a roll call called for because it requires a constitutional majority still of 51. Roll call machine is open for your vote. Those in favor of suspension of the rule vote aye. Those opposed, nay. All members voted. Clerk will take the roll. Being 26 members voting aye, it falls short of the 51 vote threshold. Therefore, the motion to suspend the rules fails. Lady from Jefferson 32.
May I continue to speak on the bill?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. The big national management chains out of New York, Michigan, and California make a fortune on sweeps contracts. Their corporate offices in New York City or Los Angeles select the curriculum. Your tax dollars would pay huge leases to the real estate branches of their chains. Tax dollars that could have paid off a mortgage won't lead to a building owned by charter schools, as it will be owned by profiteers from other states. Their clever contracts written by corporate lawyers make sure that the for-profit chains own the books, the smart screens, and even the desks that Kentucky taxpayers pay for. All of this might happen without the approval of locally elected school boards. Statewide authorizers aren't in the bill anymore, but a local district could have a charter apply, and if KDE overrules it, they could get a charter without their permission. That would not be local control. Yet districts have to give a proportional amount of all federal, state, and local dollars. I'll repeat, federal, state, and local dollars received to charter schools. Local taxes raised for local schools are required to be transferred to charters that may be managed by out-of-state for-profit companies with boards that do not even require that all of the members be residents of Kentucky. On Sunday, USA Today broke a story on how charter schools across the nation received more than $1 billion in PPP loans because the federal government considered them a business. How can the state mandate that local taxes are appropriated to a charter business? I bring your attention to Section 180 of our Kentucky Constitution, and it specifies that every tax that is levied must be for one purpose and shall never be devoted to another purpose. It is my understanding that the transfer of local funds to charter businesses is unconstitutional. I would like to request that we suspend the rules to hear House Floor Amendment 28, which would remove the appropriation of local funding to charter schools from the bill.
Motion of the lady from Jefferson 32 is for suspension of the rules Lady from Jefferson 44. Motion of the lady from Jefferson 32 is for suspension of the rules for the purpose of calling and acting upon House Floor Amendment 28, which was just filed today. Will require constitutional majority of 51 to suspend those rules. It's non-debatable. Roll call machine is open for your vote. Those in favor of suspension of the rules vote aye. Those opposed, nay. All members voted. Clerk will take the roll. Being 22 members voting aye, it falls short of the 51 votes required to suspend the rules. So therefore, the motion to suspend the rules fails. Lady from Jefferson 32.
Thank you. May I continue to speak on the bill?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Funding, federal, local, and state, is given proportionately to a charter school, and it's given over the course of the year. However, special education funding is an add-on, and we have what's called a December 1 count. Whichever levels or however many special education students you have on December 1, you get that add-on amount for those students. However, what a charter school could do is on December 2nd, they could begin the process of counseling out a student with disabilities, and that money would not follow the student back to their district school. So I encourage you to consider this one. I would like to have an amendment added that would say students who attend a charter, if they go back to their district school, that a proportionate amount of the add-on for special education funding would be distributed back to the district school. I'd like to suspend the rules to call House Floor Amendment 25, please.
Motion of the lady from Jefferson 32 is for suspension of the rules for the purpose of allowing the introduction and hearing of House Floor Amendment 25, which was filed just today. Does require a constitutional majority of 51 and is non-debatable. Roll call is open for your vote. Those in favor of suspension of the rules vote aye. Those opposed, nay. All members voted. Clerk will take the roll. Being 27 members voting aye, motion falls short of the 51 votes necessary for suspension of the rules. The motion fails. Lady from Jefferson 32.
Yes, sir. May I continue to speak on the bill?
Yes, ma'am.
It will not surprise you that at least since March 1st, I have been doing a lot of research on charter schools. And the gentleman from Nelson made a statement in committee today that really isn't supported by the research, or maybe partially it is. You know, he said charters take all children. There's extensive research on how charters pick their students, either through their marketing or through exclusionary practices or through counseling them out. I have two issues that I've pulled from the book. that support a charter school enrolling and retaining all of our children. One is that a charter school should be required to have a wait list to enroll students during the course of the year. What happens sometimes is the charter might accept the children at the beginning of the year, and then they don't fill those seats. And this would require that they open their enrollment up to fill seats during the course of the year. I would like to request that we suspend the rules to hear House Floor Amendment 29.
Motion of the lady from Jefferson 32 is for a suspension of the rules for the purpose of allowing House Floor Amendment 29 to be called an act upon, which was filed just today. Motion is non-debatable, requires a constitutional majority of 51. Roll call is open for your vote. Those in favor vote aye. Those opposed, nay. All members voted. Clerk will take the roll. There being 24 members voting aye, it falls short of the 51 votes necessary for suspension of the rules. Therefore, the motion to suspend the rules fails. Lady from Jefferson 32.
Yes, sir. May I continue to speak on the bill?
Yes, ma'am.
Another common practice for charter schools is to have discipline practices to push out students with behavior issues. A recommendation in the research is that charter schools be required to report data on student withdrawals and disciplinary actions. I ask that we suspend the rules to hear House Floor Amendment 26.
Motion of the lady from Jefferson 32 is for suspension of the rules to allow for action on House Floor Amendment 26, which was filed just today and is not currently in order. Motion to suspend the rules is not debatable, requires constitutional majority of 51. Roll call is open for your vote. Those in favor of suspension of the rules vote aye. All members voted. Clerk will take the roll. Being 28 members voting aye. Motion falls short of the 51 votes necessary for passage. Therefore, the motion to suspend the rules fails. Lady from Jefferson 32.
Yes, sir. May I speak on the bill?
Yes, ma'am.
There is nothing I want more than to have the best public education that you can imagine for every single one of our children. However, the ability for for-profit management companies to manage 100% of the funds that go into a charter school, combined with the lack of local control, exclusionary disciplinary processes that sift out a certain group of children into the charter school, is not the answer that we need to fulfill our duty to provide an opportunity for every child to learn in Kentucky in our common school system. I encourage you to vote no on this bill and for us to go back to the table. And I haven't worked on this bill for 6 months. I wasn't invited to the table to have any conversations, and I was not here in 2017 when we passed our charter bill. I would be more than happy to share what I have learned to help us make the best legislation that we can have possible in this state. Thank you.